Hey, this is Dr. Emily Scherning with American Resiliency. Today we're talking water. I can't tell you the number of internet fights I've seen connecting Great Lakes water and the long-term drought trend in the lower Colorado Basin, with particularly severe impacts already hitting Arizona, Nevada, and California. In this video, we're going to get a better picture of what's going on in these two water systems and address current rumors around water diversion from the Great Lakes. Let's start with the Southwest. So even though we had a wet winter in California, and I am aware that is an understatement, we're still talking about water systems in the Southwest that are facing trends of ongoing reduction. The Southwestern drought trend is not just an ag issue, it's an infrastructure issue. And that's where we face a really critical tipping point coming up. We're not so far away from Deadpool, where major hydro generation stations will shut down. The feds think that this past wet winter pushed it out maybe another 6 months from Deadpool in Lake Mead, which might get us to 2026. In terms of major infrastructure timelines, that's tomorrow, you know. The states involved in this water system are facing federally mandated water cuts. The feds are mandating water cuts to save the power infrastructure at the cost of agricultural output. How big are the total cuts? About 2 million acre feet out of a total budget of 7.5 million acre feet. So these are big cuts. This is more than a quarter of the total water allotment. You can imagine Southwestern states looking at a hotter, drier future. They all feel pressure to fight to keep as much water as they can. They haven't yet been able to come to an agreement about these cuts, and it's not a surprise they can't agree. It's worth noting, though, there's a general feeling among the states involved that everyone is conservation minded. Nobody's like the problem kid in these talks. Anyway, in April, the federal government stepped in. The feds have proposed two models for the cuts. One gives out water based on priority for water rights, the other, it's cross-board cuts. You can imagine both of these models, there's communities that are losing big. And if you want to learn more, I have a link. I'm going to show you the article here for this really nice overview reporting from the San Diego Union Tribune. This is a great article. This will be a way for you to get facts, figures, and agencies involved if that's something that interests you. So, a reasonable person might imagine if we're in a situation where we're low on water, would it be nice if we could get more water? So, when we look at a map of the United States, a source where there's a lot of water does become pretty apparent. And that's how we start involving the Great Lakes water in this story. If you're interested in climate, you probably know there's a lot of territory around the lakes where communities can be optimistic about the future. I mean, we got to put our shoulder to the wheel. There's work to be done, but we've got a solid outlook across a pretty big region there. And a large part of our strength is in the water. However, it's worth noting we have what might be termed an unreasonable amount of water. We have 21% of the entire world's fresh water. Remember in the Southwest, that huge cut, that potentially devastating for communities cut is 2 million with an M feet of water, acre feet of water. You measure the Great Lakes in acre feet, we're talking about more than 18 billion with a B acre feet of water. So this 2 million foot cut, it's comparatively small, right? And yet the thoughts of any of the Great Lakes water heading to the Southwest, it gets Midwesterners really freaked out. The people of this region, my region, our attitude towards the water is kind of like a dragon's attitude towards the horde, right? Every week you can find local and regional papers carrying strongly worded editorials, and I have to show you this one that is insane. You all have heard of Minnesota nice, right? This does not seem very nice, man. So headline is horrifying. Really captures the vibe. It captures the vibe. In the Midwest, it's not socially acceptable to hate a lot of things, but this is the extreme protective forces around this water. It really brings people together here because you can't too much, right? If a conservative Catholic from Wausau, Wisconsin, a libertarian atheist from Dubuque, Iowa were to get together on one thing they could hate together, it would be people who want to take the water. As we know, in larger society, hate can be a very effective way to bring people together. That does not mean it's great. It's a question. I know this is culturally sensitive stuff, folks, if you're in the Midwest with me. Those of us in this water privileged area, we might want to consider that hating people who want to take our water is a force that holds Midwestern society together. But if we can cool down for a minute, maybe we could do that by Googling or enjoying just some Some of our abundant water sources, they're very soothing. Helps you cool right down. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. Maybe we could get some data on the water if we could calm down. We could understand our water situation more rationally. So I had the opportunity this last week to learn about the water resources of the Upper Mississippi Basin through Umbra, this organization you've never heard of because they're not public facing. They shared this report that they've been doing regarding changes in the Upper Mississippi Basin over the last like 25 years. And this is a hardcore paper. Here, you can download it if you want. It's enormous, but they've done some like huge outreach work. I'm going to show you some nice figures that they've done from this fascinating report, which does overview. It just gives you even more reason for those of us in these destination regions around the Upper Mississippi River Basin to feel hopeful about our future. So since this organization started building their data set in 1989, and this is like built data, this isn't modeled data. They've seen water quality improve across the basin. They've seen parts of the river system, many parts where native fish, plants, and birds are bouncing back, where they've been able to keep invasive carp out. It's like really looking pretty good. Like, look at this cute data visualization. They made a few flyers from the giant report to make it easy to read. If you can see, the key here is adorable. And you can see that in the upper Mississippi River, until you get down to like LaGrange, which if you've been there, this is not a surprise that people are doing poorly, that fish are doing poorly in the LaGrange Basin. Once you get farther north in the basin, things are mostly stable or improving. The commercially valued fishes that are decreasing across the board are non-native, so that's fantastic. We can see there are many places where native fish are doing all right or holding steady. It's better than I thought it would. It's not all good news though. They are able to show that the forests and the floodplain, and forests across the U.S. When we're looking at the climate future, forests in general are threatened ecosystems. But check out the decline in floodplain forests from 2013 to 2019 because we had those huge floods in 2019. So this is a forest sample measured with infrared. So the live trees are red and dead trees are green. We can see tremendous reduction in the living trees in this floodplain, and that's a problem throughout the basin. There's also mixed news on sediment accumulation, where we got too much in some places, not enough in others. But important point. Since 1989, when this organization started doing intensive measurement and data aggregation, over that time, the trend is that there's more water in the upper Mississippi River Basin more of the time. Why are we measuring this? So this organization, Umbra, wants to be ready to respond to requests for water diversion with science. That's why they're doing so much to measure riverine health through so many factors, including ecosystem services and non-human use of the water. Right now, there's not an economically feasible way to move the water the Southwest needs out of the Great Lakes. And the waters of the Great Lakes themselves, they're legally protected from diversion by the Great Lakes Compact, signed into law in 2008 by President George W. Bush. This compact, by and large, prohibits taking water from the Great Lakes and their basins' groundwater, smaller lakes or rivers, without the approval of all 8 states and the input of Ontario and Quebec. With Quebec needing to get on board for any sizable diversion to occur, we can be sure it's not happening. However, some of us may be putting the pieces together that water is a liquid. So water could be diverted once it flows outside of that compact protected area. If an engineering solution arrives, if water diversion becomes feasible, this upper Mississippi River Basin would be the place to divert water. It's the best quality Great Lakes water available outside of the highly protected compact region. And that's why Umbra is there, monitoring, protecting, and caring for the river basin, gathering the data needed to make rational decisions about water diversion. The Mississippi River is a living dynamic system. The mouth of the river moves about every 1,000 years. It's been in its current location for long enough. It's really interested in moving. It wants to go down the heel of the boot. Here's a couple of graphics here so that you can see how many places it's come out. This graphic from the Advocate is really nice. When you look at the shape of Louisiana, it often looks suspiciously like maybe the river delta has deposited sediment in a number of river mouths, right? So right now, it's coming out the bird foot, right? And it wants to go down here. So we're dealing with a dynamic system. We're dealing with a system that really wants to move And it's widely acknowledged that the huge amount of work done by the Army Corps of Engineers on keeping the river in place since 23, it's getting dicey. The Mississippi is not willing to stay the same. A lot of the trouble we had getting barges down the Mississippi to the Gulf. You might remember last year the river got too low for normal barge traffic for quite a while. It's related to the fact that we're dealing with a water system that's ready to move. I'm glad we have organizations like Umbra monitoring the river health all the way up to the headwaters and the lakes. Water is a precious resource, and we know change is coming that will threaten water. It's worth noting that natural processes, regardless of climate, meant that we were going to be looking at the Mississippi River changing course anyway. Right now, all rumors aside, there are no plans to divert water from this basin. But I think it's good to know that people are thinking about it in more than a reactive way, collecting the data, looking at potential impacts, and considering non human as well as human needs for the water. As there is more water accumulating in the basin because of precipitation trends that are going to be dumping more spring and winter water on those basins by the Great Lakes, we're going to have more problems with spring flooding. It is already destroying forest habitat that we have this excessive spring flood. If we don't divert water, there will continue to be more of that flooding every year. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this and to talk a tiny bit about the numbers involved, where we're talking about millions versus billions. However, I'm pretty sure that even mentioning the topic of water diversion will have already caused some Midwesterners to go rapidly insane. If that's you, if I'm just making you madder and madder, I'm going to suggest that you take action to protect your flank and lobby to extend the area protected by the Great Lakes Compact. That would be a rational move, and I have a feeling you could get people to come together with you on it. But it's worth noting that when we look at the numbers, we are water billionaires. Literally, we have billions and billions of acre feet of water and more incoming. It does flood all the time in the Upper Mississippi River Basin. It's been bad floods this spring too, because like Umber has shown us, we have more water in the system more of the time. When you look at that system balance, it would be nice if there was a way for us to share. But thanks for listening, folks. I hope this helped you understand some of America's big picture water trends. They're such an important piece of the climate outlook. And we need to understand so that we can prepare for what's coming. Let's get ready.